To start, you're going to chain as many stitches as it takes just to reach the side of your cell phone. I've got 13 stitches here, but now I'm going to chain another one, and I'm going to single crochet right across. When I reach the last stitch, I'm going to do 3 single crochets into that last stitch. So let's just make our way across. You can set our phone aside for now. Through the process, you just want to keep it handy so that you can measure. Don't crochet too tightly, because then you won't be able to insert your hook. Okay, last stitch. We're going to do 3 single crochets into that last stitch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the other side of the chain, and as we do, you can incorporate your tail end here. So you're just going to pick up that single loop and single crochet into that. And again, the next loop. And you'll notice I'm sandwiching the tail end right in between, so it gets hidden as I go. When we come to the other end, we're going to work another 3 single crochets in the last stitch once again. And then we're going to be starting our loop stitch. And the loop stitch is a 2-row repeat. So I'll explain that when we get there. It's actually very simple. It's very much like doing the single crochet stitch, except you just incorporate a loop. So we're at the second last stitch here. And in this last stitch, we're going to single crochet 3. Now we're going to join up to the beginning, and we're just going to slip stitch into that first stitch. And your bottom is complete. Now that our bottom is done, we're going to start the 2-row repeat of the loop stitch. So we're going to chain 1, and in my case I'm going to single crochet 14 stitches across this row. It might be different depending on the size of your own particular cell phone. This is my last stitch, that's 14 stitches. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to start the actual loops. You're going to insert your hook, extend your index finger to make a loop. You're going to come around the front, then you're going to come around the back and pick up that back strand through the loop, just like you do for a single crochet, yarn over and through both loops on the hook. Let me show you that again. Hook through the next stitch, extend your index finger, bring the hook around, catch that strand on the back, bring it through your stitch, yarn over, and through both loops on the hook. And then you can drop that loop. Again, hook through the next stitch, extend your index finger, you're going to bring the hook around, then you're going to catch that back strand, bring it through the stitch, yarn over, and through both loops on the hook. Drop the strand. And there you've got the loops forming on the back. So continue on in this manner until the end of the row. Then we're going to chain one once again, turn around, and you're going to start that 2-row repeat all over again. So a row of single crochet and then a row of loop stitches. I forgot to mention that you can leave the loops as is, or you can cut them to closely mimic the fur of the Grinch. This particular one I left uncut, but I think I'll experiment with this one and cut the loops and see how they turn out. Once again, once you reach the last stitch, you're going to chain one, turn around, and start that 2-row process all over again. So single crochet across, chain one, work your way back with the loop stitch. You're going to do that until you reach the top of your cell phone. So just keep bringing it back just to measure your progress. And once we reach the top here, we're ready to create the face. So coming up, we're going to stitch the eye and also do the eyebrow. And then what we're going to do is embroider on the mouth with our tapestry needle and also the nose, and then stitch all the elements on. And you'll notice here that I only stitched the very ends of the eyebrow so that it floats above all this loopy texture. Now let's start the eye. We're using yellow and we're going to chain 5. Now we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. in the last stitch, we're going to do 4 half double crochets. So yarn over through the loop, yarn over again, and through all 3 loops on your hook. So that's 1. Let's do another 3. So there's our 4 half double crochets. Now we're going to continue around the other end of the chain here, and if you like you can incorporate your tail end. So we're going back to single crochets. We're just going to go through this front loop, so we're going to do 3 half double crochets. Here's our third one. Now we're back to the beginning and we're just going to join to that first chain. Just slip stitch. And there's the shape you end up with. Now we can introduce our black. So we're just slipping our black right through that stitch. You can tighten that up. Now we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch. Just tighten that up. Now we're going to chain 2. We're going to slip stitch into this next stitch here. And we're going to slip stitch right where we started, right back into that same stitch. And that starts to form our little eyelashes. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and chain 2 once again. Slip stitch into that second stitch and slip stitch once again right into the beginning. Now we're going to continue slip stitching all the way around the eye. We're going to do 9 slip stitches. Okay, so to finish off, we're going to do a double crochet into this space. Now we're going to join up with the first chain here. We're going to do a single crochet into that. And you can just fasten right off. And there's your eye shape. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our tapestry needle. By the way, be sure to leave a long tail end because you want to stitch the pupil and also stitch the eye on. So we're just going to thread up the tapestry needle. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to create the pupil. Now, if you like, you can just leave that V or you can fill in with more stitches to make it solid. And there you go, eye is done. We're going to stitch it on, angled up. I'll just demonstrate on the back of our phone case here since we already have an eye on our little pouch. So you're just going to angle it up in this direction and stitch all the way around. And I would suggest when you're stitching that you stitch through both these loops. And obviously you're going to stitch through the fabric, but you'll be stitching through both these loops in a running stitch all the way around, as so. And just keep doing that running stitch all the way around until the eye is stitched on. Now, when you come up to the eyelashes, you can stitch through the last loop and then fasten them into the fabric. For the eyebrow, I'm going to switch over to a smaller 3.75 hook. This is a size F. I'm going to chain 12. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. Now I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to slip stitch into that next stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch back into the original chain where I started. And you can see we have that little nubby starting to form. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Chain 2, and we're going to repeat that process again. So slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch back into the original stitch. Now we're going to slip stitch to the end. We're going to chain 4, and we're going to slip stitch our way back. So slip stitch into the next 3 stitches, finally we're going to slip stitch into the original stitch where we started, where we've got our knot here. So slip stitch right through there. Now you can cut your yarn and leave a long tail. So here's how it should look when you're done. Got this little hook at the end and it comes up into this arc. So when you stitch it on, once your front is done, you're going to take your tail ends, you're just going to stitch right at the bottom and right at the top. You're just going to let it float over these stitches here. You don't want to squish any of your texture. So just tack it at one end and the other end. As you can see here, it's loose through the middle. On the back, it looks just like regular single crochet, but when you turn around to the front, you've got this beautiful loopy texture, which you can either leave like that or cut. Here's an option for you. Since the hat or the flap is going to be coming down and covering half the face, you really don't have to continue the loop stitch underneath where the hat is going to be. So I'm about to start the 14th row here. I chained 1 and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to start with a single crochet. I'm not even going to loop stitch. Then I'm going to continue on with the loop stitch across the row as usual. And when I reach the end of the row, I'm going to single crochet back. Now in the subsequent row, when I start my loop stitch, I'm going to single crochet 2. And as I keep crocheting, At the beginning of the row, I'm going to single crochet 3, then 4, then 5, and eventually you'll end up with just single crochet down this triangular area here. So I've done several rows, and I just want to show you that it starts to form this triangular shape that is just going to get covered by the hat anyways. So you can save both time and yarn by doing this, and I am running out of yarn for the front, so that will save me a lot of time and yarn. So I've now done 27 rows beyond where we started here, and I'm just fitting it over my cell phone, and I've come to the top, so I'm going to end there. Now I can cut my yarn and leave a tail end so that you can weave it in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my green yarn and pick it up at the bottom here, and we're going to continue on with the back. When we reach the top, we're going to change to red and start to do the hat, as you can see here. So as we do that, we're going to incorporate our sides. So we're going to stitch the sides as we go, which will enclose the case. But before we do the back, we're going to break and construct the eye and the eyebrow, and then we're going to stitch everything on and embroider the nose and mouth. So take the time to do it now while your back is still accessible, because it's much easier to do it that way. So I'm just going to take some black yarn, and this is a plastic canvas needle. It's blunt at the end, which is great for getting through the stitches. And I'll just thread it through the eye of the needle. And then I'm going to embroider on all my elements. So for instance, let's bring in the eye. We're just going to position it right about there. I'll take my tail end, and we're just going to stitch around. So we're going to go down and come up, and we're going to capture both these loops as we stitch. And when that is done, we're also going to stitch on the eyebrow. And that just goes right above the eye. And as I explained before, we're just going to stitch in either end here and leave the middle loose. As you see here, you just want a little bit of space between the top of the case and the eyebrow, so that the hat can come up and over. As I'm stitching on the eye, I find it helpful to come over to the edge of the table here and just be sure you're going through both loops of the eye, the block around the eye. You're going to come down, turn your work, going to come back through and underneath. Come back up from underneath. And now go back through those two loops. And now you're going to come over to the loops right beside and go through those two loops there. Turn your work. Come back down to the back. As you're doing this, make sure that your yarn doesn't get caught, and I have gotten caught here. And there you go, that's how the eye is looking. Continue working your way around, coming through the back. you're going to go back through that same loop. You're going to come across to the 2 loops right beside, come back through, and you could go immediately through your fabric, but I just like to do it in stages to make sure all the yarn is out of the way before I do that. And there you go, that's tightening up really nicely. Again, come through the back through those same 2 loops, into the loops right beside it, and right through the back. And again, make sure nothing's in the way. Now when you come to the eyelashes, you can either stitch them down or just let them be. So just above the eye, I'm going to make sure that the loops are coming in the upward direction here. Back through the same 2 loops. And then I'm going to go back down right in between the eyelash here. Turn the work. Going to come up right beside it. And again, I'm going to go right in between the eyelash. Just take a running stitch right across, turn the work, come up right beside it. I'm going to come through these 2 loops right at the end of the eye. And then I'm going to come right through the corner. And now I can fasten off. And there you go. Eyes all done. And embroider the mouth and the nose. As you see here. Got the nose right there. And the mouth. And when you're doing the mouth, you just have to be mindful to pull the loops out of the way as you stitch. After you've done your running stitch for the mouth, you're just going to come back and thicken it, and you're simply going to whip stitch around those stitches. You're not going to come back through the fabric again. You're just going to go around the stitches you've already done. And as you can see, that's going to thicken up the line. Because of the loopy fur, you're not going to see a lot of the mouth, so it does need to be a thicker line. And there you go. Now you can move the loops back. Now we're going to join the green yarn at the bottom here. But first we're going to tie in all these loose ends. Tidy that up. Now I started the bottom one exactly the same as I started my Santa inspired cell phone case here. And now what I'm going to do is work on the back. So I'm going to join my green, And what I'm going to do is slip stitch into the side here. I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to single crochet across. You'll notice that as I'm working here, the yarn has changed. This is just a different version, but it's the same exact technique. For this Grinch, you'll just be using the green worsted yarn. Now that we've reached the side, we're going to put our hook through 2 loops on the side here, and we're going to slip stitch through. Then we're merely going to turn around and crochet back in the other direction. We're going to single crochet all the way across, and then once we get to the other side, we're going to do exactly the same thing. Now as we slip stitch into the loops on the side, what is going to end up happening is we are going to, if I can show you on this one, we're going to seal up our case here, making our little pouch. Once we reach the top, we're going to do the hat. You can see the pouch starting to form here. It's fitting nicely. So for now, let's just finish another row and I will show you what I do at the sides here. Okay, so we just crocheted into the last stitch of this row. Now we're going to turn our work and we're going to find 2 loops on the side here. Just insert the crochet hook and then we're going to slip stitch. Then we're going to turn our work and work our way back in the other direction. And again, we're single crocheting all the way across. Continue single crocheting until you've reached the top of your work, incorporating all the stitches on the side. Then we're going to switch to red for the hat. Again, I'm using a different example here, so before proceeding, you'd be joining the red yarn to your green. Now, when we reach the left side on this row and all other rows until the end, we're going to chain 1 and turn and single crochet across. On the back side, you're going to stop short of the last stitch and then merely turn around and crochet back. You're not going to chain 1. Now from here on in, we're going to single crochet across. We're going to leave out 1 stitch and simply turn around and make our way back. Again, once we reach here, we're going to chain 1 and turn and continue in that fashion until we're just down to 1 stitch. And that's it, you're done. As you can see, you've got this slanty side here, and what we're going to do is single crochet down the side here. So try to get double stitches on the hook. 17 brings us down to the bottom, and as you can see, that neatly tidies off the edge here. And if you like, you can single crochet on this edge, but I think that looks fine. I'm not going to bother. Now you can cut your yarn and knot the end and weave it in. And then what we're going to do is add a button so that we can fasten it and add a pom-pom onto the edge. We're going to start with a magic circle. You're just crossing over an X here. You're bringing your crochet up and around. Then we're going to chain. Now we're going to crochet 8. Now we're going to tighten up this loop here. We're just going to pull it. As you can see, it forms this circle here. So we're going to slip stitch into that first loop. Now we're going to chain 1 And we're merely going to single crochet around the circle, so we're going to have 8. Now we're going to join to our first stitch. So now we're going to decrease. We're going to insert our hook into the first 2 loops of the next 2 single crochets. Then we're going to pull up our loop as usual and complete our single crochet. Then the next one is a normal single crochet. And again, we're going to decrease into the next 2 single crochets. So front loop only. So you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and complete the single crochet. Next stitch is a regular single crochet. Once again, into the first 2 loops, pull through and complete your decrease. Now we're back to the beginning again. We're going to join, and there you've got your little pom-pom. I'm going to cut the yarn. What I have here is a tapestry needle. I'm just going to wrap the yarn around the end here, turn it around and thread it through the eye. Just guide it through. So now I can just knot that loop, and I'm just going to weave in and out of the top here. So just in and out of the loops. Bring that through. Now, before you tighten this off completely, you might want to put a little bit of stuffing in there. Now, you can either use stuffing or the yarn itself. Oh, by the way, before you do this, let's just bring through that end to hide it. We're going to hide that inside. That can act as a little bit of our stuffing here. And I'll add just a little more stuffing in here too. You can use the end of your crochet hook just to get that in. Okay, if you want a firmer pom-pom, just add a little bit more stuffing. And again, use the end of your crochet hook just to get it in there. Now you can tighten up, and there you go. You've got your pom-pom. And I'll just stitch that onto the end. Just come through the end like this. And come back. And there you go. Pom-pom is done. I'm just going to hide the ends, tie that off, and cut that. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Man, you really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. For more crochet ideas, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notifications of our upcoming projects. Visit our Ribbler store for more patterns while they're on sale for the holidays.